The case of Jack the Ripper. Another unsettling and unsolved murder is who terrorized the streets of London's Whitechapel district in 1888. The identity of Jack the Ripper remains one of the most infamous mysteries in criminal history, and the case has influenced law enforcement, criminology, and popular culture worldwide. Though Jack the Ripper is believed to have killed at least 5 women, known as the canonical 5, many historians and researchers speculate that the Ripper could have killed more people before or after these victims. The canonical 5 are Mary and Polly Nichols August 31st, Annie Chapman September 8th, Elizabeth Stride September 30th, Catherine Eddowes September 30th, Mary Jane Kelly November 9th, all in 1888. These women were impoverished and worked in or around prostitution, making them vulnerable in London's gritties and during the late 19th century. All 5 victims were brutally murdered with escalating degrees of violence. The killer typically targeted the victims' throats, cutting them so deeply that it nearly decapitated some. The killer also performed extensive mutilations to their bodies, particularly after death. In several cases, organs were removed, leading investigators to believe that the killer had anatomical knowledge, potentially being a doctor, butcher, or someone familiar with surgical procedures. Mary Ann Nichols was found with her throat slashed and her abdomen deeply cut. Annie Chapman was discovered with her abdomen wide open and parts of her internal organs missing. Elizabeth Stride had her throat cut, but her murder was likely interrupted before further mutilations could be performed. Catherine Eddowes, murdered the same night as Stride, had the most horrifying wounds, with her face disfigured and her kidney and uterus removed. Mary Jane Kelly, the final known victim, was the most mutilated. Found in her room, her entire face was destroyed, and most of her organs were scattered around the room. The investigative techniques in the late 1800s were limited, and forensic science, as we know it today, was non-existent. The Metropolitan Police and the City of London Police were both involved, though coordination was problematic. Blood splatter analysis, DNA testing, and other advanced methods didn't exist, so detectives primarily relied on eyewitness reports and footwork. The name Jack the Ripper comes from one of the many letters sent to the press and police during the investigation, although it's debated whether any of the letters were actually written by the killer. The most famous letter, the Dear Boss letter, which was signed Jack the Ripper, bragged about the murders and claimed to be planning more. Another letter, dubbed the From Hell letter, was sent along with half a human kidney, possibly from one of the victims, adding to the macabre mystery. The lack of modern investigative tools led to rampant speculation, even during the time of the killings. Several potential suspects were investigated, including Suspect Number 1, Montague John Druitt, a barrister who was thought to be mentally unstable and disappear after the last murder. He was found dead in the Thames River soon after, fueling suspicions. Number 2, Aaron Kosminski, a Polish Jewish barbaran, known local lunatic who was institutionalized shortly after the killings ended. Number 3, Prince Albert Victor, Duke of Clarence, the grandson of Queen Victoria. Though highly unlikely, royal conspiracy theories abounded, accusing him of being Jack the Ripper or being connected to cover-ups involving the royal family. Number 4, Drive, Francis Tumblety, a fraudulent doctor and misogynist who was in London during the murders and fled back to the US after the final killing. While some evidence points to specific individuals, none of the theories have been definitively proven. Social and cultural impact. Firstly, fear in London. The Whitechapel murders occurred in an impoverished, crime-ridden district of London. Out because of the grotesque mutilations, which suggested a deranged and calculating these murders spread fear through the city, especially among women and sex workers, who were frequent targets of violence in that era. However, the Ripper killings stood killer. Second, media sensation. The newspapers latched on to the gruesome nature of the killings, often sensationalizing the details and turning the investigation into a public spectacle. As a result, Jack the Ripper became one of the first modern examples of true crime media frenzy, with daily updates, theories, and debates, shaping public opinion and growing a lasting legacy around the case. Third, class tensions. The case highlighted class struggles in London, as Whitechapel was a destitute area that suffered from overcrowding, unsanitary conditions, and poverty. Many believed the police failed to catch Jack the Ripper because they were indifferent to the plight of poor women and saw the victim's social status as unworthy of proper justice. Some believed that if the victims had come from wealthier areas, the police would have been more motivated to solve the case. Over the years, there have been numerous books, documentaries, and movies speculating on Jack the Ripper's identity. Modern researchers and ripperologists have continued to investigate the case, hoping to use DNA, psychological profiling, and modern forensic techniques to unmask the killer. Theories range from Freemason conspiracies, satanic cults, to the idea that Jack the Ripper could have been a woman. Despite these efforts, none have definitively solved the case. In recent years, DNA testing on items like the shawl believed to belong to one of the victims led to renewed interest in the case. Some testing pointed toward Aaron Kosminski as a strong suspect, but questions remain about the contamination of evidence over time, and the conclusion is still debated among experts. The legend of Jack the Ripper has only grown over the years, cementing him as one of history's most notorious serial killers. His ability to evade capture despite intense scrutiny, combined with the brutality of the murders and the mystery surrounding his identity, keeps the case alive in public consciousness. The Ripper murders also marked a turning point in policing and forensic science, influencing the way law enforcement approach serial killings in future decades. In popular culture, Jack the Ripper has been portrayed in movies, books, TV shows, comics, and even video games. He remains a symbol of humanity's fear of the unknown, the dark underbelly of urban life, and the potential for evil to hide in plain sight. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy our video, follow for more unsolved mysteries.